that you can text if there's an issue. So hopefully you can read this. It says tech problems 802-376-4639.
Did I see it now?
Yeah, that's great.
Because this is a hybrid meeting and our poor clerk is striving desperately to get everyone's name, please type your name and the names of anyone who is in the room with you into the chat. So that is the little icon on the bottom. On my screen, it's on the bottom. It looks like a talk balloon. So if you could please put your name. And as I said, if there are two of you in the room, please put both of you in.
So I just type it, or do I have to click on it?
You need to click, you need to look and see where it says type message here. So if you open the chat, which is the little balloon, there'll be a thing at the bottom that says type message here. If you type your name into there, your full name, first and last, and hit return, then we'll have that information for the open meeting. Okay, the first item on the agenda is public comment. I want to be clear, this is public comment not related to anything else on the agenda. We have, and I think many of you are here to discuss the municipal planning grant as the next item, and the Saxtons River rec application grant as the item following that. So this is public comment for items not related to those issues. Is there any public comment tonight? Okay, hearing none, we're ready to move on to the municipal planning grant. I am going to exercise the moderator's privilege and ask you to limit yourself to 3 minutes. 3 minutes is actually a very long time. After you have spoken for 3 minutes, then someone else will have to have a turn. This is an opportunity for you to be heard, but let me just take a moment and remind you about what we're meeting on. So this is a municipal planning grant. The grant application will be available in early September, September 1st, I think. Gary Fox from the town of Rockingham will help us with the actual application. The kind of grant it is not what I would call a bricks and mortar grant. It will not, for example, paint a building or take down a building. It will allow us to pay a consultant to hold community meetings, to revise bylaws, to make plans to move us forward. So it is a municipal planning grant. The amount of the total grant is around $22,000. Some of the suggested projects, such as revising the Saxtons River zoning bylaws, would come in at much less than that, $11,000, $15,000. But I'm going to open the floor and just remind you, one at a time, please wait for me to recognize you. I promise I'll try and get to everyone. And I will keep an eye on the time, so 3 minutes. All right, raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Everybody's just here to listen? John, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we're all set. Thank you. I suggest that we get a planning grant to investigate demolishing the old Tinney's lumber and the adjacent apartment and turning that into a fire station, and demolishing the current fire station and turning that into a green space with 2 or 3 hookups for electric car recharging as a set.
Okay, so remember, this is a planning grant, so it wouldn't actually do any of those things, but it would measure, it would gather community input, Okay, so you're looking then at the Tennies building, the fire department, and electric charging?
Yes, and a green space where the current fire station is, not unlike the park.
And for clarification, John, when you say the tenny, you mean what most people now refer to as the dish.
Yes, well, I didn't want to, not
The Main Street Arts Annex.
historical people, and also the adjacent white apartment.
Okay. Anything else, John, Celia? The spotlight is on the two of you. Anything else you want to add?
No,
Okay. Someone else?
I just have a question. And it's regarding the proposal.
Okay, hold on. Who's speaking, please?
It's Abigail Goldie.
Thank you, Abigail. I'm
That's-
sorry, but if I can't see your face, then I really have no idea if you're talking. Go ahead, Abigail.
Saxtons River resident. I just wonder what is the benefit of, and I mean, maybe it could involve, or you know more than I do in the background, spending a grant investigating the use of a private property, whereas the owners of that private property would be in control of, what would happen to that. I mean, I just, I'm not quite sure why we would spend consultancy money on that.
And what is the private property that you're referring to?
It's owned by the Main Street Arts. That the Main Street Arts Annex is what used to be called the dish, used to be called Tenny's Lumber. Don't we all wish we had Tenny's Lumber there still?
I certainly do.
Yeah.
Okay. Rick Holloway.
Abigail's sitting right next to me, but I will give a brief response to her question. I think that the idea of getting a planning grant to help move the fire station project forward, regardless of the location,
Yes.
is the topic, and that the dish the Tenny dish just happens to be a potential location that had been discussed in the past. So that's my interpretation of that topic.
Okay, Guy?
Just a point of clarification, is Gary Fox planning on attending? from
No,
the
he is
develop-
not. He called me earlier.
Okay,
And one of the things he said was, remember that this grant is one opportunity to move us forward. There are other grants and other opportunities. So keep that in mind.
okay.
I'm going to say again, because I've just noticed, Guy, that Sue is with you. Please, if you haven't already, type your name and the names of anyone else who is in the room with you into the chat so that the clerk has a good record of who is here.
Mhm. Could I respond to what you just said about other, grants being available? It's Abigail again.
Okay,
I don't feel that we should waste any grant money. I mean, one grant doesn't obviate getting another one. And learning as much as we can and exploring as much as we can, I think is a good thing. Regardless of, what happens to any of these various things, we need to just be sure that we're spending the money wisely is all. And I do like Rick's honing in on the issue here really is moving. That's our primary issue, as far as I see personally, is the firehouse and the rescue station. I mean, the whole thing is somehow got to get moved on.
okay. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to the issue of the zoning bylaws? So I was surprised to read that we have one kind of, we have zoning that allows gas stations or anything anywhere in the village. It's a very general kind of zoning that we have available to us. I've tried to make those documents available, but perhaps they haven't been absorbed. Ellen,
Just in the chat, Heidi Larcell said that she has some thoughts.
okay,
I guess perhaps they're having problems connecting for audio. So maybe through the chat that she'll be responding.
Heidi, do you want to just use the
Hi,
chat?
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
My audio is okay, my video is not.
That's fine.
So I don't know what's been covered because I could barely get here. So I'll do my list and you can listen patiently and to the ones that have already been said. Electricity in the park is my first one. Second is I think the circle at the top of Main Street should be made larger by making a one-way lane. So it's a true roundabout to have safer traffic and more green space. And the circle could actually be made bigger just because if you go there, there's this huge section of pavement that no one drives in. So fixing that traffic flow. And if you expanded it, it would expand all the way to the point would be the crosswalk to the park. So that whole area. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I just said support the things we already have, check in with Main Street Arts, the Historical Society and 24 Main, and see how the village can help them. And the last thing, I don't know if you're just talking grants, but increased connection with the town, just like Bellows Falls seems to have co-meetings between the select board and the trustees. I don't quite know why it isn't a freeway. Because then you could talk about things like zoning. Like, I just don't know where the responsibilities begin and end, and if zoning is a town question instead of a village question.
So I can
do that.
Heidi, I'm going to interrupt you and answer that one. Zoning is a town question, not a village question. There are zoning bylaws that apply specifically to Saxons River. And one of the suggestions for this grant is that we hire somebody who would help us review those zoning bylaws and perhaps make them more specific, hone them in for encouraging the kind of development we would like to see along the street. Since this is a planning grant, that would be an emphasis that we could choose. But yes, you're right. We do not meet in the same way that the village of Bellows Falls and the town of Rockingham do.
Great. Those were all my ideas and thoughts.
Okay.
This is Leslie. Could I make a comment on that?
Sure, Leslie. This is Leslie Goldman, I'm assuming at the fire station.
I am. I was on the select board in the 2005 or 6, and there were three-way meetings at that point. And they were found to be useful, so I don't know why they went away, but there is a historical precedent for three-way meetings.
Okay. Looks like Susan Still.
Because Main Street Arts came up and consulting with Main Street Arts, I'd like to just tell you that the Board of Directors has decided to come up with a plan to demolish the dish. It is in very poor condition, which is documented, and the trustees have those documents. And in order to come up with a plan to replace it with something that would be of value to the village, there needs to be, to begin with, a series of public meetings, which, as we all know, those of us who attend public meetings, they are complicated. And so that needs to come out with some sort of consensus. and it would be helpful to have an outside consultant to do that. It would be helpful as well to have engineers take a look at the process and the cost of taking apart the building and whether anything could be salvaged. Rick Cowan, would you like to further clarify that? Rick is also a member of the Main Street Arts Trustees.
Yes, we have.
Okay, so just a minute. I insist on being the one in charge. Sorry, Susan. Any response to Susan before we allow Rick to speak? Okay, Rick, go ahead. This is Rick Cowan, Carl.
Jeff.
So as Susan mentioned, Main Street Arts has determined that we do not have the funds nor the inclination to maintain or repair the building. We do own it, as Abigail noted. It is currently appraised at about $62,000 worth of value by Paul Noble, the chair of the village listers, did a report on that for us, and we have that document. As Susan noted, we also have engineering studies of people who have climbed into it and under it to find out what, if any, potential there is for resurrecting it, and there seems to be none. It encompasses 0.41 acres, which is a pretty good sized piece of land given in the village.
4.4.
And so we are open. We want the idea of working with a consultant to look at all the possibilities for the village, to move the pieces around on the puzzle board and see what might go where, and to conduct that process, and to have this paid for by the state of Vermont seems like a really good idea.
Okay. So I'm going to give you one of the outlines that was provided to us from Gary Fox. So it looks very much what like Susan and Rick have discussed. So putting the focus on 37 Main Street, that site. Redevelopment is needed. So hiring a community planner or landscape architect to sponsor a design charrette to redevelop the site, integrating the new park, the post office, and the Main Street Arts Building, approaching development projects, and perhaps redesigning, changing the zoning bylaws to support these projects. So that would be the deliverable product from the grant would be a zoning application with a surveyed site plan of the proposed redevelopment, and if necessary, zoning bylaws code revisions. And I think, as Susan suggested, that it would have to involve community meetings as well to come to some consensus about the purposes of the site. Is there other feedback?
That's all right. That's right. That's okay.
Amy,
Carl?
could I ask for a point of clarification? Would this grant be submitted by the town of Rockingham or by the village of Saxtons River?
I believe it has to be submitted by the town of Rockingham. Does anyone here know the answer to that? Rick, you're nodding.
Town of Rockingham has to submit it. In that Saxtons River is an entity within the town of Rockingham.
There are provisions in the state statutes for villages within a town to submit a grant, and that's why I was wondering whether we were looking at following one of those alternative routes or whether the town was planning to submit this.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
So there's the development director in Rockingham, Gary Fox, is the person who is charged with submitting grants from Rockingham. And he also is going to give us his time to prepare this application. He's very knowledgeable about how to prepare these things. So I think it makes sense for, and Gary is very sympathetic to Saxtons River and has spent a lot of time thinking about this. So I think it's actually a good thing that Rockingham can apply because Gary will do most of the work.
Was there another question there, Carl?
Not another question, but a separate issue, if I can bring it up.
Okay,
Heidi has suggested some other topics that might be subject of a grant. If I can make a modest suggestion, I think that it would be useful for purposes of planning and development to look at the water supply infrastructure, particularly for Main Street in the downtown, which I think is potentially an issue for new housing, if we're looking at that, if we're looking at development of businesses or industry. I know anecdotally that when people have reason to go digging up, looking for water, they find a mess, a maze down there. And I think that it might be useful information to have. It's not very glamorous, but if we're looking long-term at development, that might be something we might want to consider.
and we know that the American Recovery Planning Act, ARPA, does favor water and sewer projects. So that's another resource for us as we get closer to that. Guy, I believe you're on the Planning Commission. Can you tell us whether that is something that the Planning Commission discussed? Maybe it's too far away from the topics that you have suggested for Saxtons River?
Yeah, I mean, that's nothing that we have discussed up to this point in time. I don't know who is responsible for the town plan in terms of the chapters that are being written, which chapter that would fall under and who was writing that. So I don't know. That's something I could get back to everyone on. And I think that would be a critical piece for the town plan.
It's okay.
So Carl, your suggestion is that focusing on water resources and coming up with a plan for improving or understanding them throughout the village would be an appropriate use for a municipal planning grant?
Well, yeah, improving them might be a big issue, but I know that it would be nice to understand where the water comes from, what buildings, residences or businesses might be vulnerable if we have a very dry year. This is something that I think we might want to, if we decided to pursue this, I think we would want to touch base with Vermont Academy on this, since we, I believe, rely on their water supply for part of our fire protection. So it could be a fairly complex issue. And as far as finding a solution, Lord only knows what could be done.
So what would the person we hire investigate? What would the task be for the municipal planning grant?
Well, I think the task would be to identify the sources of water for residences and businesses in the village. What buildings rely on what particular water source?
Gordon, what are you?
And
I don't know what happened to my thing.
to look at perhaps issues in the hardwiring, the piping that delivers from source to consumer, whether or not there's hard upgrades that need to be done or could be done, whether or not they're more efficient or reliable ways. I don't really know what the, off the top of my head, what the person would be tasked with. And I think that this would be one of the things that we would want to investigate if this was a topic during the period between the time applications open and the time that they're due in November. I don't have a well-defined goal for that person in mind. But I go back and thinking about problems in parts of this area of the village when there have been issues with well pumps, or there have been issues with lines, possibilities of wells running dry. I think it's an important issue for any community. So,
Okay, thank you, Carl. Abigail, I want to wait and make sure that we haven't cut anyone off. I see some names that I know have not spoken, and I'm also wondering, Emily, could you identify yourself in chat or audio?
Westminster Rescue, Golden Cross Ambulance, response number 6023. The Yellow Brothers gas station for female subject that passed out is now conscious.
Guessing not.
Response number 6023, US 5.
Rick, is that noise, is that coming from the scanner?
Yeah.
Can you mute for a minute? Emily, I wonder if you could tell us who you are. I don't see you in the chat, and I want to make sure we haven't missed anyone. I guess not. All right, Abigail, I'll return to you if you would still like to speak.
Yes, I just wanted to reinforce Carl's concern about water issues going forward. I think it's going to be it's a big global issue, and I think we need to understand actually what are our resources facing global warming and all of the things that are going on. I think it's a very wise suggestion. I endorse that wholeheartedly. I believe other people in this room do as well.
So the problem for you is how to talk the numbers.
Gordon, did you want to speak? I see something is coming from your monitor, Gordon Corstange.
I don't see myself. I hit something and I don't know, I disappeared. So
we can see you and we can hear you.
Me. Okay. No, I don't want to speak specifically to these kind of things. You know, I'm more interested in the broad picture of Saxtons River.
Okay. Sarah Campbell.
Amy, I just want to address the zoning issue. My understanding is that, well, yes, all of Saxtons River is zoned. It's not actually that only certain homes are zoned, or certain buildings are zoned commercial. They get taxed at a different rate. They have a series of fees at a different rate. So not every building in Saxtons River is equal in terms of zoning.
So I would respond to you, and you certainly know this town far better than I do. So I'm relying on suggestions from Gary Fox. And I know we have people from the Planning Commission who can perhaps add to this. So what the zoning administrator reported was that there are 30 different land uses allowed everywhere in the village, including agriculture and forestry, auto repair, bed and breakfast, business office, community care home, community center, convenience store with fuel service, dormitory and clothes storage, gasoline station, hospice, hospital, hotel, motel. All of those uses are allowed anywhere in the village of Saxtons River. And the suggestion was made that zoning bylaws could be revised to make certain districts more specific
Yeah,
to purposes.
Yes, I understand that, Amy. I just wanted to make sure that the broad public understood that every building is not treated equally.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Comment from Celia Bohannon.
I would like to respond to one of the things that I read in Gary Fox's report, which was about the streetscape. He commented that the main street in Saxtons River is wider than many main streets, and recommended or suggested that we might consider changing that so that there was less pavement in the middle of the street, and so that the main street was different than it is now, basically, with grass on both sides and differences in the parking. And I would like to comment that, to me, the width of Main Street and the view of Main Street from the bridge to the Historical Society is iconic in Saxtons River, and that to make the street narrower and have buildings and sidewalks and all of that encroaching on both sides, in my opinion, would be a mistake.
Okay. Other comments on the idea of the streetscape? I know a friend of mine was eager to think about bike lanes in Saxtons River, that if we looked at revising things, putting bike lanes in. Heidi thought that there could be changes in the street circle and in the lanes. So that would be more like a streetscape application.
Amy, looks like Will has a quick question. Or a
Okay,
comment.
Will? Can you unmute?
Okay,
Great,
yes,
thank
I
you.
think I got it there. I just wanted to say I'm definitely in favor of the idea of bike lanes, but just to note that painted bike lanes are useless. I think if we want to have more people down in the village, slowing traffic is critical. Someone mentioned earlier about the traffic in front of the Historical Society and the post office. People fly through there. I live right by there. I can't take my kids down there on their bikes. We would be down there a lot more often. So just to reiterate, if we're talking about working on that area, that part of the village, I think it's important to put an emphasis on making the village more friendly to people on people on foot and people on bikes, to the disadvantage, if necessary, of the people who fly through going 70, 80 miles, 90 miles an hour in the evenings, for instance, and all of us, I think, drive too fast through there sometimes. So that's just, I would like that to be an issue of consideration.
Okay. Celia.
I concur. That is entirely in harmony with my comment.
Guy.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of clarify, the word streetscape isn't really clearly defined. And really what we're talking about is the front of the building, of any building, as it works its way down, including then to the sidewalks, bike lanes, and the main streets. So when we hear the word streetscape, that's what we're referring to.
So we're not referring, there's an illustration that shows a lane with people walking and a place where cars are driving and a place where trees are and a sidewalk. Yes. That's not streetscape.
No, that would include the streetscape. We're really talking about, it's just the front of the building and then all aspects of the street itself.
Okay. And is slowing traffic is it possible that a streetscape design could play into slowing traffic?
They may be possible. I don't know. Okay. That would all be part of the discussion and the charrette.
Ah. There's no way to put my hand, oh. sorry.
Heidi, go ahead.
I was looking for the hand raising icon. So yes, and just to add on to that, there was additional signs put up in our village that I think need to come down. And by using architecture of the streets instead of signs, we can have a better result. I think this, we don't need another sign that says yield or another sign that says school bus stops here. And the kid's now 30 years old. What we need is planters, curbs. Those are they're called calming devices that slow the traffic down in a way that no one really notices. And it's beautiful.
If I could speak.
I'm sorry, I missed. Who is speaking?
This is Will Hunick.
Thank you, Will. Go ahead.
I just want to say I agree with that entirely. I've done some study in signs and what people actually do and what good they do, and really I'm very unimpressed with signs. Speed limits, for instance, are almost entirely ignored, especially when there's no chance of enforcement. But enforcement actually does very little also, if you get a chance of being caught now and again. I think the only way we're going to have any hope of slowing down traffic through the village on Main Street or any other street will be through concrete changes, literal concrete changes. We can design incentives or disincentives to speeding with the actual roads, the layout, but signs are just a distraction for the most part.
So looking back, it seems to me we have at least 3 discrete proposals. Abigail, I'll get to you in a minute, I promise. 3 discrete proposals that people are enthusiastic about. Okay, I see you, Carl. I'll get to you too. So in reverse order, a redesign of the street, the water, an investigation of water sources, where the water comes from, where it goes, with an eye to improving it, I think, particularly as we head into climate crisis. And I would say the third one focused more on the dish or Tenney's hardware store.
Or the fire station.
Or the fire station. Okay, Abigail, you first and then Carl.
To comment, number one, you did exactly sort of what I was going to suggest. We were getting into committee work or consultant work, if you will, and you summarized it beautifully. And thank you.
Okay, Carl.
Comments on alterations to the street, Main Street. First, I believe we would need to work with VTrans on that, since it is a state highway, and that would make some difference in what could or could not be done. And second, looking at the sketch, proposing a 10-foot wide traffic lane, I would suggest that that's not practical, that that's not wide enough. We do have commercial and construction truck traffic through the village on Highway 121, and 10-foot lanes are minimally adequate and not adequate for 2 vehicles of that size meeting one another. So I think that we need to keep some considerations like that in mind, that the streetscape and the highway function need to be compatible.
Mhm. Okay, Susan?
I'm wondering what the decision-making process is for the trustees. Taking in these comments, how are you going to decide?
We'll get to that. Any other comments?
A counterpoint about the width of the streets.
So this is Will again?
This is Will again. A counterpoint to the width of the streets is that is a good way to slow traffic. That's well studied at this point. So long as the necessary traffic can in fact get through, if it causes things to slow down, that's not necessarily a hardship for us.
All right. Rick, are you waving your hand?
Yeah, I think I just want to point out that when we're getting into talking about widths of streets and various things like that, that we're getting away from talking about what we want a planning grant or someone to do. So what we would, from my perspective, what we want the planner to do is we want ideas to present to the planner. How do we calm traffic and make our village more pedestrian friendly? I don't think this is the venue for talking about narrowing the streets or getting into the specific details of what we want. That's what the intent of paying a planner to do is we need to come up with the idea of like, what do we want to see? I mean, we could all sit here and give our opinion of like what we should do to get it done, but that's kind of, I think what we're trying to do is brainstorm the ideas of what we would want the planners to do and then figure out how we're going to pick which of those, what projects we want the planners to look at. So just in the, it's great to hear all the ideas, but I think that, in the keeping track of the time, the amount of time that we have and that we want to spend on this, that, talking about the width of the street or the litter on a stick, as I've heard signs referred to before and what they do, I think that that's part of what the planner would do,
Yes.
that we want to do.
That
So.
was my point.
All right. One more chance for comments from the public before the trustees have at this discussion.
Yeah, I wanted to say something.
Okay, Gordon, this is Gordon Corstange, Carl.
Well, I'm just thinking, why do people, I'm thinking, why do I go to Main Street? I go to the post office, I go to the village market. So the question is, what is Main Street? And does it serve as a meeting place for people from the village? Or is it just a place where people need to go to do basic sort of stuff, right? Maybe, they'll go to the inn for, if it's, if they used to go to the inn for something or, but, it's not, at this point, it's not a place where, say, I don't know, it's 5:30, 6 o'clock, I might walk down the Main Street, see what's happening. It's more a question, it's really about the character of Main Street, and the questions of how big the lanes are and what goes through it and everything is part of that. And as long as I've lived here, it's been pretty much like that. Post office, village market, Main Street Arts, maybe, and that's about it. So that's just what I've been thinking in terms of the big picture of things like that. I mean, I go down to look at the river too. So anyway.
Celia Bohannon.
And I would add to that the Village Early Learning Center, the church. There are other things on Main Street that people frequent. I emphasize the inn, and of course the park and the and Main Street Arts too are part of the vibrant nature of Main Street. So I think as you come in from the bridge from Bellows Falls, as you look down, there's lots going on along Main Street.
All right, I'm going to Abigail, you've spoken, and so I'm going to turn back to the trustees now. So we have a choice, it seems to me, Rick, Carl, Ellen, and Matt isn't here. We can take these ideas and do some research. We can discuss them further tonight and make a decision now. That's the big branch that I see. Do we make a decision now, or do we try and come up with a few more questions that we explore before we make a decision? The grant becomes available September 1st. Our next meeting is September 13th. We can do extra special meetings. We can do special meetings in between if you want, but I think we need to get this pushed together because this is only the first gate. Would have to be approved by several other groups before it is submitted as a grant. So what is your pleasure? And I'm just looking now at Rick, Ellen, and Carl. Rick, go ahead.
I'd like to have at least a week or so to digest what we've heard tonight and try to get it into an outline of several topics. And then before we, really decide to put it to a vote or however we're going to do it, I think getting it, giving us all the time to mentally digest it and having it in an outline with a clear topic or agenda. What I'm hearing tonight mostly is, what do we want downtown Saxtons River to be and become? And, like kind of following up on Gordon's comment, what I heard from most people is we want downtown Saxtons River to become kind of like a meeting place. We want it to be where people, walk downtown and just see what's happening at 5 or 5:30. And the question is like, how do we do that back? Some of the other things are important, like the water thing that Carl talked about is definitely important. But I'm not ready to like say this is the one we want to do tonight.
Okay, Carl, I'm going to call on you next.
I agree with Rick. I think we've heard a lot tonight. And I need more time than the duration of this meeting to think about what's most important. I think that perhaps we should have a special meeting in a week to debate this. And I think it might be useful to solicit any written suggestions, comments from members of the public so that we have their ideas clearly written out so we don't misrepresent them, misunderstand them. I mean, we have, I will hopefully capture a lot of it in the minutes, but if somebody has a particular point, proposal, data that they want to share, I think it would be useful to solicit that for our consideration when we meet again.
Okay. Ellen? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
From Rick's. Sorry. Okay. So first of all, I think I agree with Rick and then also with Carl about waiting a week just to digest everything and possibly get more food from thought from everyone who's attended this meeting and others so that we can all just really think it through. I am truly excited about these ideas that have come up tonight. I feel really encouraged and excited and so much appreciate how the community has flooded this meeting to make sure that we come up with some good ideas. And I love the ideas we've come up with. And I'm really grateful for that. But I'd like another week.
Okay, are there specific questions that you have at this point for any of these ideas? I'm wondering, so for example, Carl, I'm sure there are people, and maybe some of you know who they are in the highway department or people in public works who can tell us more about the water system and what we do and don't know. So there are some obvious places to go for answers, it seems to me. I'm envisioning that happening so that we have fully fledged proposals to look at. So if we're looking at a special meeting, are we thinking next Monday night?
We have 2 more Monday nights in August, maybe the 30th, and give us 2 weeks.
I'd like the 30th. And then maybe we can, yeah, maybe we can reach out and get some of those answers, like about to my knowledge, there is no such thing as a municipal water system in Saxtons River. There's the VA system that comes down and supplies, I think, sprinkler to the inn and maybe a few other places. There are several shared well systems in the upper village. I'm not sure what's down in the lower village, but you know, there's.
Speaking from history, I know that there was a sort of a municipal system that ran from what's now our land on Hartley Hill Road down into the village. John Alexander started it and my grandmother inherited it. And when she died, her heirs all refused to inherit it because it was so difficult to maintain. So, and there may be some other old systems like that, common shared springs and piping, I don't know. But I think we would have to go to somebody familiar with in public works. And I think it might take longer than a week to get that information.
Okay. So I'm hearing, I see your hand, Sarah, but I'm going to ignore you for the moment. I'm hearing the 30th, a special meeting specifically to look at any additional public comments that were emailed to us to discuss several proposals, which perhaps would be fleshed out more in between, and then to vote that night. Is that the, Rick, go ahead.
I'm not sure about additional proposals. I was thinking more like we would take what we have tonight and clarify it into 3 to 5 specific topics that we would then present to the public and maybe, you know, give people some chance to give feedback and then to decide on which of those. Because if we take too much more, if we wait for more topics and ideas and stuff to come in, then we're just going to get swamped and overloaded and overwhelmed. And I think that we got enough information tonight that we can come up with 3 to 5 specific topics that we can then present them with some sort of a title for each one, and then all these wonderful folks can come back and say number 3, number 2, you know, like, and give us kind of, you know, I don't think we need to go. I don't know that we are prepared to go to a special vote or meeting, but at least we can get some feedback. We'll get kind of a straw vote from the folks who show up to talk to us to help with decision making.
Yeah, I think we need to make the decision, but you're right. It's great to have help.
Yeah.
Sarah, I cut you off because I wanted to make sure I got through the plan for the special meeting. Do you want to comment?
Just to say that Chris Coda would be actually oddly enough, your best resource to find out about the water systems in Saxtons River. What I do know from a meeting, I think it was a select board meeting about 5 years ago, is that there is not one house who is not on a well in the village of Saxtons River, and that was via Chris Coda and some other people, and that's from when the sewer was installed in the early 70s.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you just told me.
Okay, so Carl was bringing up, there used to be springs throughout Saxtons River and shared springs.
Yeah.
I don't believe that exists any longer. But Chris Coda is your best option to ask about, because he was involved when the sewer was put in the early 70s.
Okay, so this is more factual information for us.
Yes, and a resource.
Okay, so are we agreed we'll have a special meeting and we will try extremely hard to come up with a decision by then, because we're on top of our deadlines and the next meeting is the 13th. Does that sound doable to the trustees? Okay. Ellen, you're okay with that? Okay. And Carl?
Yeah, I
Okay.
would point out that we don't have to have an application submitted until November, so I don't think we
Yes,
have to have
but the
final-
application has to go through several committees that are not our committee. So that's just my concern. And you know, we have other stuff bumping along, so I'm not eager to devote too much time to this. All right, thank you everybody who came specifically to address these things. If you would like to send comments to me, I will collect them for the board. I am Chair SRV, all one word, CHAIR SRV @vermontel.net. All of our emails are on the Rockingham, Vermont website if you need to get hold of us. And if you know any of us, of course, you can deliver. I would recommend written comments though, just so that they're not as open to interpretation. And I know not all of you spoke tonight, but if you have written comments, that would be great. Anybody who has not put their information in the chat, I'm sorry to be dragging on about this, but I do worry about it. Please add it to the chat now. I think pretty much everybody here has. Anything else before we move off this topic and on to the next one? Okay, ready for item number 2. And this is the item that Louise Loring and Sam Fletcher have come for. So this is the Saxons River Rec Grant. Louise and Sam, would one of you like to take the lead on this?
I will, Louise, if that's okay with you.
Okay, go ahead, Sam.
Okay, I'm here tonight to talk to you guys about possibility of gaining permission to apply for a grant that has to do directly with the development of outdoor recreation facilities within the state of Vermont. There's a grant opportunity that will allow a minimum of $50,000 with no cap amount to organizations or facilities, if you will, that wish to develop their properties and or facilities, however you would like to see it, to help increase their value within their community. In discussing this with Amy and Louise further the other night, there's a chance that we may not qualify in regards to some of the description of what they're looking for was, more of a development of outdoor recreations, and they implied more about like trail systems and stuff like that. But I don't.
Economic development, I think.
And economic development, yes, which, could, the rec area, as we know, isn't necessarily a big pillar of that part of it, but maybe in conjunction with some of this other stuff that you guys have been talking about tonight, it may, have a little bit of a play in some of that. But pretty much my thought process is it doesn't hurt to submit a letter of request to be eligible to apply, because that's the first step, would be to submit the letter of interest that says, this is what we're looking to do. This is who we are. This is what we're looking to do. And like where you are in the planning phase and stuff like that, which obviously it's new ideas and stuff like that. But I have been able to surmise quite a group of people that would be interested in participating and helping me build this into something more than just an idea, such as, and I think already Louise and Rick Holloway and Ellen Lawrence. And then I have, let's see, I found Ryan Studley said that he would help. Greg and Sarah Noble said they would be interested in helping. Sherry Mallon, Mike and Linda Ferget, who have been pivotal in supporting me, especially the last couple of years in getting stuff done down there. And also as, founding family, if you will, of the rec. Hayes Mortensen, John and Heather Edwards. Heather is one of the lead teachers at VLC. John has been one of the soccer program leaders, if you will, and such. Amanda Hodson and Joan Campbell. There are just a few of the people that I've reached out to and who have said yes so far. I have several other inquiries out, and some people I haven't even had a chance to reach out to yet that I thought might have a vested interest in it. But you know, the rec is always looking to improve. I've done some grants in the past, getting the roof on the pavilion, getting the solar project going. This would be a great opportunity to try to possibly better the playground facilities. They're very old. They're reliable, but they're very old and not necessarily accessible to all children, especially handicapped children of any sort, as well as the guardhouse building itself. The bathrooms they are very old. We've kept them clean and they're working and stuff like that. But to be able to say that somebody that has any sort of handicap might be able to easily access them is not necessarily accurate. So I was thinking that this may be a good opportunity to see if we could get some funding to do some sort of big project or higher dollar projects that are kind of outside of my immediate resource of fundraising efforts, if you will. It's very hard to raise money.
Okay, Sam, I'm going to cut you off just because you've done such a good job of explaining it so far.
Okay.
So Louise, do you want to talk about the letter of intent, which I think you wrote? And I can share that now if you want me to.
I sent it to all the trustees.
Yeah, I know.
So I assume they have seen it. And I did get some feedback from Carl, but I haven't heard from anyone else. The main impetus for this grant is to grow the outdoor recreation in our area, and as a way also of helping businesses by bringing more people to the area. And our recreation area, if you were driving down Main Street, you would never know it existed because there's no sign, no way of people knowing. If you have to live here to know about it, really. But it's used by people from other towns too. But it has a building that was built 50 years ago, from what I can figure out, that needs a lot of upgrading. It probably should be taken down and rebuilt. So I think that would give us a lovely gem to be able to promote, to bring more people to the area. People could go there for their family reunion, their company party. More people would be inclined to use it if it looked nicer, if it was a more healthful building, I think. And I think it is an investment in our economy, in our local economy, because if you think of all the people who come there, especially the 4th of July, when you got thousands of people there. So I think we have a chance, and also the fact that it is free, no one pays, it serves a larger demographic than many of the other projects I heard people talking about. Who goes on trails? It's people who have the time to do that. It's a more of a, well, upscale kind of an event or an activity. But we serve any number of people, all kinds of families, and I think we have a chance in that way. Also, it's a small local project, which is one of the things they're looking for. And we are also a village, what is it called? A village, designated village. And that gives us another leg up. They specifically say that's a point in your favor. So I think it's worth giving a try. We just learned about this recently, so we don't have a lot of data, and I have no idea how much we should ask for. Carl doesn't think 50,000 is enough. And so if anybody wants to throw out a number, we could ask for anything. There's $6 million, and they're going to try to fund 25 projects. So that's a lot of money for 25 projects. And we would be applying as a village or as the rec. But since the rec is owned by the village, it would have to be a kind of a combined thing, which is why I put Amy's name as one of the contact people. So I'd like to have feedback from people.
Okay, let's start with the, any of the public who would like to have feedback. So if you could unmute yourself and give me a wave or something. I'm seeing Abigail. Go ahead, Abigail.
Truly would have a positive economic impact. Also, I wonder, I don't know much about the rec. I haven't got children and it's never been involved. Is there a way to go from Main Street on a path without getting on the road to the rec from downtown? There is?
Well, there's,
Is there a path?
there's a sidewalk. You know, I mean, they can take the sidewalk all the way up to just where my house is, to Corey Hill. But then there's a path that cuts down.
But there's
through-
no way to get directly from the center of the village, say across the academy property or anything like that.
Not to
I
my
think
knowledge.
that's private property.
There is a
But
path.
anyway, signage would be very important. I really agree with Louise. Make it known, make it welcoming. You know, this is an asset of the village. And Sam, you sound like a dynamite.
She is a dynamite.
Okay,
There
other
is a-
comments?
There is a path.
There is a path that will take you. It is part of VA's path system, but it will take you. We've had the elementary school actually walk from the elementary school through the path to the soccer field to get down to the rec area. So there is some back path that allows that as well.
Look at enlarging that and making that more accessible to everybody.
That might be a possibility to add into it. Yes.
Okay, other comments? And I think we're ready to hear from the board. Any comments or questions? So Leslie Goldman.
Hi. So 20 years ago, my children were in their sort of early, 10 years old. We spent tons of time at the rec. I remember spending, they went to camp at the rec. They did baseball at the rec. They did soccer at the rec. They did camp at the rec. We were there most days. And it was a huge part of our summer. So I think it's an incredibly wonderful asset that we should really cherish and would be wonderful for the community to put effort and kindness into. It has a great history and I think we should use it going forward.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Anyone else? Ellen, you're not waving your hand at me.
Oh.
No? Rick?
No, I think I totally support this idea and concept. I think we should ask for 250,000.
At least.
Don't laugh, Louise. I'm totally serious. You said 6
Okay.
million, 25 projects.
Yeah.
That's pretty close. And
Okay.
really, and when you think of Saxon's, I think when people think of Saxon's River, there's a lot of things that come to mind, and one of them is the rec. There's Main Street Arts, there's the inn, there's the market. And the Saxon's River Rec is something that Saxon's River is known for. As we talk about revitalizing the village and our community, it's something that really should be near the top of the list of like making it a more enticing and exciting place. The
Swimming lessons. I forgot swimming lessons.
there's so much that goes. I think that I'll take it so much for granted that of what really goes on there, that it's kind of a bit minimized in our heads, perhaps, because you think of the soccer programs, the swim lessons, the everything that happens there, and everything the rec does is a really big part of Saxon's River. And I don't know if we need a motion to approve this.
Yeah, so we've been asked to approve a letter of intent, and the letter of intent was sent to you.
Yep.
Carl, anything you want to add?
Well, I think that the letter of intent, if I remember it, would need to maybe be modified a little bit in terms of the amount you're requesting.
To put a 2 in front of that 50,000.
Put a 2 in front of that 50 or 1, but I would support. I would support the request. I think it should be for more.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Carl, that sounded an
you have
awful lot
a,
like one.
I think you have another comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Peter.
Yes, hi, let me introduce myself. First off, I'm Peter Allfeld. I work at Vermont Academy. And we were mentioned, and Sam, I'm very interested in this because we actually looked at this grant not too long ago, and I just threw down in the chat a slideshow of information on the grant itself, if I have the right one. What I would like to suggest, and I know you're voting on the letter, but I just want to put out, I'd be happy to meet with some folks up at the school, maybe even tomorrow, to kind of talk about it and walk it through a little bit, especially the part about maybe making a connection from the town to the rec area, but also maybe talking about how our campus could be used a bit about it too, because that's how we actually got our first interest in it, was looking at how we could use the campus to kind of use in our trails on the campus towards this grant. I don't know if there's anybody who would like to meet with me tomorrow, maybe to talk it through.
So Sam and Louise, I think you're the point people on this. Are you available tomorrow?
Yes, I am. I don't know about Sam.
Unfortunately, I have another committee meeting that my Cub Scout committee that I'm in tomorrow night, and I do have to work all day, and I have football practice going too for my son. So
How do you feel about this idea of involving Vermont Academy?
I think that's great.
All up for inviting anybody to help participate, and if Vermont Academy has a vested interest in that, I'd love to have Peter. I actually, when I reached out to Amanda, said, would there be possibly anybody from Vermont Academy that would have any vested interest in this, because of the connection that the rec and the grounds of Vermont Academy have and stuff, and their commitment out to me probably every year for the last 5 years about, community service opportunities when they have their kids come in, and what can they do to help me at the rec area or what have you. So I'm up for anything. I just unfortunately can't make tomorrow happen or Wednesday.
Well, my suggestion is that we approve this. Well, I'll entertain a motion, as I said, but I think I know that you two were very interested in getting this right out. So my suggestion is that if we're going to approve a motion, we word it so that you have the authority. We give you enough rope, but we also we need to know what we're approving ahead of time. So that's my only issue there. Rick, and then Ellen.
Ellen first.
Peter, I'd be interested. I would just have to do a remote meeting tomorrow. I have some time in the afternoon. If you can do a remote.
I can.
Okay.
I'm going to put my phone number in the chat for you guys to take, and you guys can reach out to me. It'll be my cell number.
Okay, thank you.
What is your email?
Well, let's do that. That would be the better one. It is P. Allfeld. I'll write it in. at vermontacademy.org.
Okay.
Let's go that route, because that'll start a paper chain. That also can involve a lot of people, which I like. This is exciting.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion. Ellen, you may. Oh, Rick, you had something to say too. I'm sorry.
I was
didn't
ready
mean
to make a
knock you out.
motion.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm good with the motion too.
I would like to make a motion that the trustees grant Louise and Sam permission to move ahead with the letter of intent to apply for this grant up to $250,000 to work with interested and affected parties, stakeholders to develop the letter and move ahead. Does that work?
Does that work for you, Louise, and for you, Sam?
That's good.
How about you, Peter?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Before you do that, Rick, could you repeat the last little bit of your message about?
I was trying to make it as clear as possible without. I'd like to. So the motion is to approve Louise and Samantha as the primary
Authors.
folks, authors to create a letter of intent for a grant of at least $250,000 to.
I thought you said up to.
Up to.
Up to.
No, you amended it.
Well, somebody mentioned it should be at least 250. So
I
we'll
don't
say
think, that's not.
$250,000.
Let's go for gusto.
And to include stakeholders and interested parties in the creation of the letter of intent.
Enough. Hold on.
Okay.
Carl, do you have that?
Yeah, it was the stakeholders and interested parties that I hadn't got.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve Louise and Sam to create a letter of intent of up to $250,000, including stakeholders and interested parties to apply for this vocational grant.
Yeah.
What is it called, Louise?
Vermont outdoor recreation.
Speed bumps.
That's good. Vermont Outdoor Recreation Grant. All in favor? I'm just looking at board members now. Hold up your hand. Okay, and it's unanimous, so we don't have to take a roll call. Thank you, everyone. And what a nice thing to have happen here in this community setting.
Thank you all very much.
So
Thank you, Sam,
before
for your
before
great
everyone
work.
leaves, I'd like to really thank Sam for all the work she does at the rec. She's worked her butt off the last 10 years to really do this.
She needs more people on her board.
So, yeah, the village really does owe her a big thank you. I know she
Right.
puts her heart and soul
Right.
into it and takes it seriously. It's not just it's not just an added little committee she's on. She really is at this
Right.
point the Saxons River Rec. So.
And also your approachability, Sam.
Oh,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm thinking too that, like Leslie, this is an underappreciated facility. And when we think about the number of kids who've learned how to play soccer there, or who've played a baseball game there, or who've hung out with their friends there in the summer, or who've been to see the fireworks on the 4th of July, maybe not the last 2 years, but many, many years before then, it has a real impact.
Right.
Okay,
So
guys,
thanks,
we've got a
Sam.
lot to get through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the VCAAP2 customer opportunity for sewer liens. So this is an opportunity for people who have overdue utility bills because of COVID to use state funds to apply. Sarah has looked into this. Sarah, do you want to say a few words about these grants? Maybe
Sorry,
not.
I had to unmute myself. Sure, I looked into it. I do want to do some further research on it. We are making super progress due to Alex and Celia Bohannon on delinquent sewer and taxes. And by putting the liens on people, they really do respond to that. So I've been working with a whole bunch of people, but my understanding is very basically is that you have to live in the home in order to take advantage of this program. So we have 3 large delinquent people. I'm going to send out with their sewer fees a letter of explaining where to go for information for this and exactly what they owe, and give them the lien number so that they understand that there is a lien, even though they've received like this information already twice. So that's where I'm at with it.
Okay. Maybe I could ask Louise to comment. We used this last year, didn't we? Wasn't this something that was beneficial during the first go round with COVID?
Yes, it was. And it benefited several, Vermont Academy for one and several others. The stipulation is that it's for the current bill. You can't use it to apply to past years. It's only the last bill you got.
So does that mean the bill for 2021?
Yeah.
The bill that just came out?
Right.
Louise, are you sure it's the same for this year as last year? Because my understanding is
I don't know.
commercial doesn't apply this year.
Oh, well, maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
It does seem to be aimed at the customer.
Okay, well, the commercial is a customer too, but if there is say you have Sam Jones can't pay his bill this year, he could apply for this year's bill. But if he hadn't paid for the last 2 years, he can't apply for that. So whatever the fee is now, it's how much is it? 600 and something?
It's
732.
732 is the maximum any individual could apply for. And I don't know about the commercial and Vermont Academy.
And my understanding is that the state paid about half of, for residential homeowners, about half of what they asked for.
No, they paid the whole thing.
Saxons River got the whole thing for the customers?
The people who applied from Saxons River, maybe it was 3 individuals, I don't remember. They got whatever they asked for.
Great. Okay. If anybody is watching this and looking for more information, the name of the program is VCAAPII, that is to say 2, but with Roman numerals. And I think if you called Vermont 211, you know, that Vermont phone number 211, they could also hook you up with the appropriate application. Carl, I know you wanted to make sure we covered this. Have we done it adequately to your satisfaction?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else from the trustees on this VCAP opportunity? All right, rolling on. Committee reports and updates. Wastewater treatment plant. We have bids for pipe insulation from Atlantic and Northern. Maybe you want a minute, as I do, to shuffle my papers and get them up. I think Rob Wheeler is not here tonight, but he told us he was very happy with both bids. What is your pleasure?
Which one was I forget which one was the lower bid.
NCMI, mechanical insulators.
So I would make a motion that we award the bid to NCMI. I know that they have a good reputation. They're kind of the premier group in the area. They're one of the only companies in the area that does that. And if Rob's happy with either bid, they're kind of the go-to. So.
All right. Is there further discussion?
Is there a difference other than price between the bids?
Well, we sent it to you. Let me.
One of them was fairly lower, and I thought it was NCMI.
It is.
Yeah. Our tech is weak here at the fire station, and I didn't print it out, so.
I don't recall seeing those bids, Amy.
They came to you, Carl.
Did they? Okay.
Yes, they did. I went back and double checked today.
Yeah, no, I know I saw them. I know she sent them to us in the plethora of email stuff that we were sent.
Hold on, let me see if I can find the other one and answer your factual question about it. I have a feeling it wasn't called anything as specific as
No, it wasn't.
Northern bid. Okay, so
So Atlantic was 12,350.
and NCMI was 5,750.
So almost half.
Let's see. Both of them are quite brief. Atlantic says, they're coming from Troy, New York. We are pleased to submit our proposal, insulate pipe as shown in pictures. Piping is to be insulated with 2-inch mineral wool for sound absorption. Piping indoors will be jacketed with PVC, and aluminum will be installed on exterior piping. The insulation, go ahead.
I read them both pretty close, and the scope of work is nearly identical. There really wasn't anything different except the price, and I was scratching my head trying to figure out why there was such a difference in price, and I couldn't find anything that spoke to it.
Well, I always trust your judgment on this. So.
Yeah.
And that was MCI?
NCMI.
NCMI.
And the other one
North
is
Country
Atlantic.
Mechanical Insulation.
Further questions, Carl?
No, I still don't know what happened to that, but I don't see that document in my email.
Do you want me to give you the date of the email? I can do that.
Sure.
This is an email with 7 attachments. The name of the email is Agenda 8/16/21, and it was emailed to you August 11th, 2021.
And yours was the first name on the email list, Carl.
Well,
Okay. Nope,
Carl,
I see it. It's
And we're looking at, one of them is called insulation proposal. That's the NCMI one. And the other one is called Saxons River WWTP thermal insulation Atlantic.pdf.
yeah, okay. My apologies, yes, I do see them.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the NCMI bid in the amount of $5,750. Did we get a second on that, Carl?
No, we did
I
not.
second.
Ellen Clark has seconded, Ellen Clark Lawrence has seconded that motion. It's been moved and seconded. I'll ask for a show of hands if you approve the motion. And we have it. So that's unanimous. On to the next. Go ahead, Carl.
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Fire station. So there's some minor clabbered issues, I think. Rick, I'm going to put you on the spot. Rick spoke to Dave Moore about repairs to the building. Can you elucidate, Rick?
Oh, there's some gaping holes in the side of the wall where clapboards are completely missing and the studs are showing, and it's right on the very, it's right near the front of the building. And, I know we talked about even just painting it as putting lipstick on a pig, but I would still like to sew up those couple of little holes, because I'm just, we want a fire station, we need a fire station, but I don't think we want the one we have to fall into the ditch. And since this is like literally exposed framing on the front side, and if we're going to paint it, we might as well just spend a couple $100 more and have those holes patched a little bit.
So the figure that I took from your email was $550.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a proposal that Dave Moore will either do the work himself or find someone to do it. $550 for minor repairs to the building during painting.
Up to.
Any more discussion? Is there a motion? You're getting good at this, Ellen. Come on, you can do it.
I
move to authorize
the amount of up to $550 for repairs needed to the Saxons River Fire Department during the painting process.
Okay, excellent. Dave Moore to do the
Second.
work. It's been moved and seconded to spend up to $550 for minor repairs to the building, to the fire station building while it's being painted. Dave Moore to do the work. Do you need anything else, Carl?
Nope.
All in favor, show by your hand. Gee, I
Do
got
we have a
Louise's
second?
bid too. Boy, that must be.
Do we have a
Okay, it's
second, Amy?
unanimous.
Excuse me, Amy, who seconded it? Who
Rick
seconded it?
seconded it.
Thank you.
Rick and I work in tandem.
That's what I thought, but I didn't hear him say it.
Well, we've worked together at Chroma long enough.
Is there anything else on the wastewater treatment plant or on the fire station? I will just say I bumped into Dave Moore today and told him I thought the red was just the right color red. Louise, what do you think? Does it look okay? You know, we're painting. Yes, good. That's great. He said, I'm chipping away at it. You know, I'm not doing it all in one fell swoop, but I think it's great that we got such a reasonable bid and could move forward with that. Anything on the wastewater treatment plant? Has anybody heard? Did they replace the valve? I
Not
guess
heard.
I need
guess
to
we-
reach out to someone.
I think we would have heard if they hadn't. But
Okay. All right, speed radar signs. I have not gone to pin down the minutes from the Rockingham board when that was discussed. Does anybody know what the outcome of that discussion was? Okay, just a mystery. All right, and we're on to item number 7, minutes for approval from August 2nd, 2021. Carl, did you
motion
have
to
any?
approve.
A motion to approve from Rick? Is there a second?
I second.
Carl, did you have any corrections you wanted to make?
They were perfect.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of August 2nd, 2021. All in favor, hold up your hand. It's unanimous. All right, warrants and bills for approval. So I apologize for sending that out so late. Do you want to see it on the screen?
Please.
Hold on, I can do this. And I could not make Excel work tonight.
It's done. She didn't need you to say anything.
Okay, whoops.
I don't know. Somebody who doesn't have a mute button.
So actually, the amount on this is $10,285.65. But I wanted to let you know that Sarah Carpenter told me that there is also a debit going through from the bank. I guess I could type that in. So that will show, this is for checks that she has been using, and that's 136.19. So I'm going to put that on the side.
Sarah Campbell,
Sarah Campbell, I'm sorry, who did I say?
Sarah Carpenter.
A voice from my past. So the total amount again is $10,285.65. And that is for the list of bills you see here.
Motion to approve the warrants for $10,285.65 as presented.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Is there a second to that motion?
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the warrants in the amount of $10,285.65. All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay, unanimous. And we are on to other business.
I don't have anything for other business, but I think we are going to have to do something about tech at the fire station if we're going to continue these hybrid meetings. I'll look into it a little bit and see what we might be able to do to improve the accessibility for all that are here. But
Yeah, because I can't, Rick has got, we're draining the resources. We can't both utilize our phones and iPads at the same time.
and other people here, you know, it's tough. So I'll talk to our tech people at work, and I'll think about
Okay.
what it can do. But I may be coming with a proposal to spend a couple $100 to buy something.
I was in Chester meeting with a group, and they were telling me about something called an OWL that does multi-directional sensing. I think I've got it right. OWL, O-W-L. It was new to me. I hadn't heard of it before, but I think your tech people are probably great. But if you wanted to check in, Julie Hance, I think, is the town manager in Chester. I was talking to library people, but they're using this technology at the Chester Select Board meetings already.
Okay.
Rick, I'm going to send you, when I get them, the copies of the VTEL bill, because the amount for the fire station is less than the amount for the wastewater station, which I was going to eventually look at and try to figure out. So perhaps it's just upping the internet.
Well, it's not just the Wi-Fi. It's the, you know, Ellen's on her iPad over there. I'm on mine over here. When we've got people that show up here, they're kind of sitting on the fringes and can't really participate. It's a little. It's not just the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi, I think, seems okay for me. I haven't had any trouble yet.
I would be happy to bring down a big screen if that's something that you could use. I mean, you'd have to hook it up, but
Yeah, well, the screen would be one part, and then the right camera and mute buttons for when and I'll talk to Art and see if we can turn the scanner off when we're having meetings here, or at least turn the volume down, so it's not so disruptive. It's just if we're gonna continue hybrid, and with the Delta variant coming out, it seems like we probably are gonna continue some form of hybrid going on. So I think we need to just up our game a wee bit for other people who show up here.
so that'll be a proposal for the September 13th meeting.
Possibly.
Okay.
We don't have enough to do. Carl's waving his hand in and out of the fog.
Go ahead, Carl.
Sarah, just for your information, one of the reasons for the difference in the phone bills is that the phone services were installed at different times and were under different rate structures for the two plans for the fire station versus the treatment plant. So they're not going to correspond very well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Which is one of my arguments with all those companies like that is, you will give a great deal to a new customer. Why don't you give me the same deal?
Okay, I've remembered. Thank you all for giving me enough time. So what I've remembered is we have been invited to send a delegate to stormwater discussions in Bellows Falls. Is anyone interested in being the trustee who attends these meetings? There was a kickoff meeting in July. I believe I sent this information on to you, but you got so much information in the last 2 weeks. I can hardly believe you were able to find the agenda in all of it. It seems to me the woman's name is Nisha Narfield. I probably have that wrong. At any rate, the critical thing is Bellows Falls is doing some serious consideration. 2 of the sites in Rockingham, or at least 2 sites, are in Saxons River, and they wondered if we would like to be part of those meetings.
What is it? Can you refresh?
Storm water.
Runoff, collection.
Yeah. Erosion, runoff, containment.
If it doesn't turn into a conflict of interest with my day job, I will, because I am currently working with various members of the town of Rockingham on such issues for Chroma.
Thank you.
Okay, so let the minutes show, Carl, that Rick Holloway is interested in being our representative to the stormwater. I'll get to the exact wording. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. The Stormwater Treatment Committee, unless it conflicts with his job. So we'll leave that open. And I'll get you the proper name. So who is going to do the research on these proposals? I'm just thinking about that our next meeting is in 1 week. Isn't that what we said?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
30th.
30th, much better.
So I hate to put the pressure on Carl, but if he could get the minutes out, or at least some notes on that portion of the minutes out ASAP so we could look at them, I would try to outline them. I'm on vacation. I have nothing better to do.
I'll get the minutes as quick as I can, but
Or if, Amy, if you can send me a link to the recording so I can watch through it, because I'm on
Okay.
vacation. I have nothing better to do.
Do you want to come over and repave my driveway?
Yeah, I've got a deck that needs sanding. Okay, recording to Carl and to Rick. And so Rick will do the proposals.
I will
I
outline.
will, I would volunteer to follow up on the water proposal. since
Great.
it's my idea. And I have to talk to Chris Coda soon anyway, so.
Yeah. There are up in the upper village there are at least like 3 or 4, maybe more shared well systems. Like we are on one, and my understanding of our systems, and I don't want to get carried away because I kind of want to go home, but ours, we used to have several other people on it, and at some point in the 70s or 80s, they had to get split up because if there were more than X number of households, it had to become a municipal system. So to avoid becoming municipal systems, I think you're on one of the shared ones too, right, Amy?
I am, yeah. Okay, so we'll work on that. I would suggest that we have something ready to distribute several days prior to the meeting. It occurred to me belatedly that we certainly could have tacked a paper handout, with the proposals that we had from Gary Fox. So I think if we have an outline of these proposals, we can try and distribute it widely. Did anybody comment when you sent out the project ideas to the agenda list, Carl?
No, I got no feedback.
Okay, all right. Well, no feedback isn't bad either. So let's have an informal deadline for that of, what do you think, the 23rd?
Yeah.
8/23. 8/23.
8/23, yeah.
I make it the 25th.
Okay.
Give me a couple extra days in case I have to contact a number of people at the town. They don't work Fridays.
It's true.
So.
Okay. Anything else for the September 13th meeting? It says next meeting, but we've sort of done that one, and I was actually thinking about September 13th. Okay.
Now,
So
August 30th is going to be a special meeting, right?
that's right. We will not do the warrant. We will not do approval of the minutes, although they'll be done, of course, because Carl has been great about that. We'll really focus just on this discussion.
And there's the 13th is the meeting that we were going to have because we can't meet on the 6th, correct?
That's right, because the 6th is Labor Day. We could
Right.
meet on the 6th, but we made the decision to push it off to the 13th. So
Okay.
I'll be letting Wool, I think, is the appropriate radio station. I'll let them know, and Fact TV, so that they can announce that we will not have our regular meeting. We will have it. Well, actually, I've got 2 special meetings to warn now, one on the 30th and one on the 13th. So I'll do that. Is there any need for an executive session?
Motion to close?
Okay. I think we're ready to adjourn. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.